Very good morning to all. So friends, welcome back to Anthropology PYQ series. So let's try to decode every question and let's master every concept. So as a part of our Anthropology PYQ series, in today's discussion, let us take up another important question and let's try to address the approach as well as the answer for the question. Now the question of the day with us is this. So look at the question. So evaluate the impact of Christianity on scheduled tribes on scheduled tribal societies of Northeast India. So this is the question of the day. So this is a straightforward question. So it is from unit 8.3. So where you can see direct 8.1, where you can see direct question that impact of Christianity on tribes. So particularly this is specifying with the Northeast. So simply you have to just mention some specific points taking the impact over the Northeast India. That's it, right? So shall we proceed with the discussion ahead? Those who have joined later or those who have joined now, so you can just have that. A very good morning once again. So let's try to proceed ahead and let's try to understand the basic concept. So what is the impact of Christianity on scheduled tribes of Northeast? So this is a very basic thing. So where can you just able to recollect when did Christianity has been introduced into India? Is there any chance? By chance, do you know when did Christianity has been introduced? Can you text in the chat box? Right. So Christianity has been introduced into India in 1st century CE. So where in 52nd century, so where we can see introduction of Christianity for the first time into India. So then it showed it took almost around 1900 years. That means in the 19th century, so roughly around by 1850s like that. So impact of Christianity has been became visual. So that's where, so almost of around 1800 years or like 1800s years it took to show some impact. So now what was the impact? So how was the impact? So let's try to understand that. So the impact of Christianity on scheduled tribe was a kind of mixed impact. Impact in the sense it was one side it was positive and it was another side it was negative impact. So what was those positive and what were their negative impacts? So first let us try to understand the positive impacts. Meanwhile, try to text in the chat box. So what kind of positive impacts did Christianity carved on the scheduled tribes? So you can just text in the chat box your things. So whatever your findings and observations are there, you can just text. So let's try to understand this. So impact of Christianity. Impact of Christianity on tribes. So I am just making it in a short note. So you can just have it particularly from the perspective of our Northeastern tribes, right? So there, first, let me just give you that the impact was, it was basically two types. So where one side we can see positive impact, on other side we can see a negative impact. So what were those positive and negative impacts? Positive impact was there and it was negative impact also was there. Then if you look from the perspective of the positive impacts, so what were the various positive impacts? So now you text in the chat box. So did anyone give any response? Let's see. Okay, modern education. Okay, that was one response that we have got. Okay, so once again, good morning to all those who have joined later. So aspirant, good morning. So modern education. So this is one good incorporation that we can take up. So if you see from the perspective of the one of the positive impacts, so you can have is like the educational and literacy transformation is one important thing. So we can incorporate that point. So first, education and literacy transformation. This was one important positive impact. So where if you see from an example point of view, So simply you can just recollect the example of the literacy rates. So if we take from Mizoram's point of view, Mizoram's point of view, so in 1901, so roughly at the beginning of the 20th century, the literacy rate of Mizo was 5%. From 5%, it has been jumped to 90% by the end of recent times. That means you can see a jump. That's a kind of transformation. And apart from this, there was a kind of introduction of modern formal education. So introduction of that. So that is another important aspect. So this is how. So Christianity and Christian missionaries have systematically carved the education and literary section. So there we can see introduction of modern schooling and improvement of literacy rates. So all such kind of impacts we can see on the education. So this is one important area. So education as well as the literacy transformation. So that's one important thing. Then furthermore, if you see what other impacts we can see. So good. So next impact that we are getting suggestion is healthcare. So what on healthcare? So if you see from healthcare point of view, so there was a kind of healthcare and social welfare transformation, and this is another important thing that we can take up. So transformation in the healthcare and social wealth. Social healthcare and social welfare transformation. So this is one important thing that you can remember. So in healthcare realm, so there was so much of improvements that have been done. So if you simply see from some of the evidences or some of the things, so there were so many epidemics that were prevailing in the northeast, particularly if you say from in Meghalaya, so in the Garo hills of Meghalaya, there were a lot of prevalence of dysentery, lot of prevalence of malaria, such kind of things. So what has happened with the introduction of the Christianity? The healthcare improvements have been started happening. So here particularly, so there was eradication of these kind of epidemic or disease outbreaks that could able to done. So that is another important incorporation that you can have here. So Garo Hills, so eradication of epidemics. So that's where the healthcare that has been done. Then apart from this, Christian health missionaries, so that have been established. So say for example, we have some of the examples like Sherkan hospitals. So Sherkan hospitals has brought a kind of revolutionary change in the healthcare realm of the northeastern people. So that's how. So there were so many developments that have happened. So there were improvement with respect to the infant mortality rates. That means there was reduction of the infant mortality rate, reduction of the maternal mortality rate, and improvement in the life expectancy and improvement in the health parameters. So there was a kind of transformation with respect to the healthcare as well as social welfare activities in the northeastern area. So that's one important aspect that you can remember. So remember that in the realm of healthcare, so we have like improvement with respect to the health parameters and improvement with respect to the reduction with respect to the disease outbreak. So that is one important aspect, right? So then next point. So what about the next impact? So anyone can text. So now, so once again, good morning those who have joined later. So music, melodies, right? Furthermore, so if you see, if another important thing that we can take is you can have the relevance of things like social transformation or social reformation, you can have it. Social reformation and abolition of certain some harmful practices, or you can also say some of the violent practices. So some of the violent practices used to be there in the northeastern tribes. Let's say for example among Konyak tribes, so Konyak Nagas. So remember an example also you can just mention. So among Konyak Nagas, so one of the tribes of northeast, there was a practice of head hunting. Head hunting practice used to be there. So what is this head hunting practice? So there they used to play like a kind of game. So it was a kind of entertainment activity where they used to just attack a person and they used to just behead them, and they used to just carry that as a token of their achievement. And there sometimes they used to cut the ears, sometimes they used to cut the hair and all those things, and they used to have it. So that was a kind of practice that used to be prevalent in the medieval Indian times. So there, with the introduction of Christianity, so there was a kind of social reformation that has been done. So many positive things have been introduced in the Northeast. So that is one important thing that you can recollect and you can have it. So this is one example there you can mention for the social reformation and abolition of harmful practices, right? So that's one important thing. Then apart from this, if you see, so later on we can have some things like cultural, so you can have socio-cultural and economic advancement. Socio-cultural and economic advancement. So this is one important thing. So, and apart from this, there was a kind of religious reformation also took place. So socio-cultural and economic advancements. Amongst that you can have all the cultural things like reformation with respect to advancements with respect to all the cultural aspects. So that is another important thing. So any further suggestions? Okay, employment opportunities, transportation, right? Okay, if you see, so within this socio-cultural advancement itself, economic advancement itself, we can bring in the context of the economic opportunities also. Now, education has education has been done. So with better education, now they have started getting better economic opportunities, and Christianity, actually introduction of Christianity has started showing a kind of new vistas and avenues in the realm of the economic opportunities and educational activities. So that's one important thing that you can remember. So this is one thing that you can remember. Then not only this, education and the socio-cultural advancement, so all of these things have systematically brought up a kind of political awakening. Political awakening occurred, and rise of a kind of a tribal nationalism. So this was another important positive impact. So that occurred. So rise of tribal nationalism, this occurred. So this was another important positive impact that you can have. So these were some of the important positive impacts that you can quote, right? So you can have like a lot of other impacts also. So primarily I am just mentioning some of them so that you can systematically remember and systematically mention in the answer. So that is one thing, right? So these were some things. Then furthermore, if you see, so we have some of the negative impacts also, right? What are the various negative impacts? So negative impacts basically includes, like for example, let's say in the realm of education or transformation, if you see, so there was a kind of decline in the traditional educational institutions or traditional educational activities. So that was one thing. And apart from that, so if you see from culture point of view, there was a kind of cultural erosion as well as cultural alienation that has took place. So this is one important negative impact. So first, it was cultural erosion and alienation. What do you mean by alienation? Alienation means making someone alien to their own culture or their own conditions. That is nothing but alienation. So land alienation. Have you heard about land alienation? That was one of the problems that the tribals faced. That means with the introduction of developmental projects, so tribals became aliens to their own forest areas. So that was land alienation. Here in the sense, cultural alienation means now there was Cultural advancement, see from the perspective of the dress. So they started wearing modern dress. They started talking modern language. They started using modern ways of food, modern ways of cuisine, modern ways of music. So all those things have been encroached or has been infused into the culture. Now, the people who are traditionally practicing their cultural habits, they themselves got alienated from outsiders, and the traditional modes of cultural activities or cultural customs, traditions, they have got eroded. So that is one important thing that we should remember, right? So then what other important recommendations that we are getting? Let's see. So employment opportunities, yes, we have done. So transportation. So transportation, actually it was in one way, we cannot say there is no much progress in transportation. Then introduction of commercial crops like tea uplifted the livelihood opportunities. Okay, so we can consider that in the form of the socio-cultural and economic advancement. So that's an example and manifestation of that. So then forced conversions. So right, so this way we can take another important thing. So this was one important aspect. Furthermore, so what prime point we can take is that let us talk from the perspective of the traditional institutions. So there was a kind of marked decline. We can see marked decline in traditional institutions. Traditional institutions, this have occurred. So this is another important thing that you should remember. So traditionally there were some of the institutions. So like, let's say for example, among Nagas, there was some youth dormitories or bachelor dormitories known as morungs. So morungs of Nagas, so that got diminished. Then Jalbak of Mijos. So that was a traditional youth dormitory or bachelor dormitories. Like, let me write you so that you can remember it. So morungs of Naga or Jalbak of Mijo. So they were nothing but some of the traditional youth dormitories. So these traditional youth dormitories, they have got diminished and they have been replaced by modern educational societies. So although formal education was not there prior to that, but the tribal youth used to have some sort of training in these kind of youth dormitories or bachelor dormitories. But after the introduction of Christianity, with the formal introduction of the education, these institutions have got diminished. So that's one important thing. Furthermore, if you see, there were some of the traditional village councils and traditional dispute resolution settlement systems. So all of them have been replaced by church. Church has started taking up such kind of activities. So where there also you can see decline in the traditional institutions. So that is another important aspect, right? So that is another important negative impact that we can have it. So then furthermore, if you see, so any other suggestions that we are getting, any other things? So all of those who have joined, you can text the negative impacts of Christianity on the tribes. So text in the chat box so that you can be participative in the discussion. So then apart from this, if you see, there was a kind of, you can say, a type of new social fragmentation of the society that occurred. Social fragmentation and religious dichotomy that has been established. Religious dichotomy. This has been started rising. So where within the tribal societies, so there were differentiations like, let's say for example, Christian tribes or non-Christian tribes. And in this kind of format, so there was a kind of dichotomy, division of the society or fragmentation of the society into different subsections. That started happening. So this created some sort of further issues. So where with this kind of things, there was a kind of rise of ethnic consciousness, and there was a kind of tribal conflict started beginning. So that is another important. So we can have another important negative impact is that rise of ethno-nationalism, or you can say rise in tribal conflicts. So this was another important, the negative impact. Why we are calling it as negative? Because earlier there was no such kind of clashes or such kind of tribal conflicts. So recently also we have saw a lot of violence in the Manipur. Can you see there was a kind of marked conflict between two tribal sections? So where you can see Meiteis and Kukis. So that's one important aspect. So Manipur violent. That was also one of the things that is because of the religious connotations. So Christian tribes and non-Christian tribes like that. So rise of the ethno-nationalism and rise of the tribal conflict. So that was another important negative impact that we can see. Now, till here, the society, till the introduction of the Christianity, this society, that is Northeastern society, it was heterogeneous in nature. Each and every tribe has their own culture, each and every tribe has their own way of life, but with the introduction of Christianity, so everything has got homogenized. This social homogenization that started occurring. So that is another important aspect that you should remember here. So social homogenization. Social homogenization, and other important thing like where you can see erosion of heterogeneity or loss of heterogeneity or diversity occurred, where all the members started using same cultural habits and traits. So this was another thing. So there was a marked decline with respect to the cultural diversity that has been observed, right? So like this, so decline of the traditional institutions, or like cultural erosion or alienation, or we can see that the social fragmentation or social homogenization. So all of them were because of the introduction of the Christianity on northeastern region. So northeast India. So this was one important thing that you should remember, right? So this was the basic demand of the question. So now, to this, what best you can do in answer is that, so simply or systematically you can incorporate some of the case studies. So adding case studies or showing some of the further evidences that makes the answer very technical. So here when you talk about the improvement in education, there you can say 5 to 90% jump in the literacy rates of Mizo. So such kind of evidences that you should give. Like when you say, for example, such kind of abolition of harmful or violent practices, you should say like abolition of head hunting practice. So such things you should mention in the answer, right? So meanwhile, what kind of case studies that you can mention? So that is another important aspect. So case studies helps you to get good marks. So what kind of case studies that you can mention here? So let me give you a brief introduction of the case studies that you can introduce here. So first, if you see, there was one case study which has been done by Heimendorf. So Heimendorf was one of the influential anthropologists, Indian anthropologists. So where we can have like Heimendorf has had an ethnographic study on the Naga tribes. So you can remember this. So Heimendorf's ethnographic study on Naga tribes. So this you can quote. So what was the basic observation of Heimendorf? So in his observation, what Heimendorf observed is that there was a shift from the animism. Animism was a kind of primitive religion. There was a shift from animism to organized religion. So that was one impact, that is because of Christianity. So there you can mention this. So what was this ethnographic study? You can remember, shift from animism to organized religion. So there was a kind of religious transformation. So that was occurred. So this was one important thing that you should or you can mention. That means religious reformation, a religious transformation, a religious conversion, that is one thing. And a further thing, if you see in the Northeast, so as of now you can see mostly the Christianity prevails in the northeastern part of India, and particularly tribals imbibed Christianity for various reasons, but that has happened. So this is one important thing. Then we have another important anthropologist or scholar known as T.C. Hudson. So T.C. Hudson has done an important, as provided we have a case study from Cassis. So T.C. Hudson case study on Khasi tribes. On Khasi tribes of Meghalaya. So Khasi Garu Jayantiya Hills, so that is Khasi tribes. So what was the observation that he found? So T.C. Hudson has given a beautiful account how Christianity helped in improvement of various educational and literacy parameters. And here systematically his observation and his thing was that where he explained that so Christianity has introduced or introduction of Roman script for Khasi language. Roman script for Khasi language. So in fact, when they have done this with this, so literacy rates have got flourished in the Khasi region. And not only this, so if you see, Shillong has been systematically established, Shillong as a capital of education of Northeast. Capital of education that you can mention, or you can say educational capital of Northeast. So this was one important transformation that you can have. So Shillong, so the capital of Meghalaya, it systematically became the capital of that. So that is another important thing that you can mention. So not only this, so furthermore if you see, there was further case studies which highlighted the impact of Christianity on the Northeast. So further case studies that if you see, so we have J.H. Hutton. So J.H. Hutton has done systematic case study or ethnographic study on the Naga tribes. So J.H. Hutton case study we can recollect and you can mention. J.H. Hutton case study on Naga tribes. So where you have Rengma Naga, Angmi Naga, like that. So I'll write it Angmi Nagas or Rengmi Nagas. So they were some of the tribes where he studied systematically. So here what has happened means, so if you see, there was a kind of observation that the traditional village councils have been systematically replaced by the church, and the dispute resolution or the settlement systems have been taken up by the church. So this was one thing. So replacement of traditional village councils or traditional councils by church. So this was one important thing. So church has started assuming central role. So that is one important change or transformation. So this case study or this finding has been given by J.H. Hooden on his study of the Naga tribe. So this is one important thing that we can incorporate. Then furthermore, like you might have heard about S.C. Dubé. So can you able to recollect S.C. Dubé? So what S.C. Dubé has done? So S.C. Dubé is very much famous in the village studies, isn't it? So as a part of his village studies, S.C. Dubé systematically studied the Mizo tribes and Mizo villages. So S.C. Dubé village studies, an Indian anthropologist, S.C. Dubé's village studies. So particularly with respect to the Mizo studies, Mizo villages, that is Mizoram village studies. So it further revealed that there was a kind of replacement of the church. Church has replaced the ball kind of village councils of the primary as a primary institution. So here again replacement. Ball. So you can mention it like this. So ball. So ball was a kind of traditional village council. So this has been replacement of ball by church as a primary institution. So this was another finding that has been found. So try to recollect that. So all these kind of case studies, what do? So they reflect that in some or other way, be it could be positive, be it could be negative. So Christianity and Christian missionaries or Christian missions or Christian activities or Christian religion or Christian influence has either positively or negatively influenced the tribal societies. Right? So if we generally talk about the concluding aspect, the impact of Christianity on the northeastern tribes was a mixed kind of impact. On one side it was positive, on the other side it was negative. Nevertheless, what we can say is that so there was more of good of positive aspects also were there and good of the negative, and there were some of the negative aspects also were there. So that's how you can just conclude the answer, stating that the impact was a kind of mixed impact, right? So this is all, and this is how you can conclude, and this is how you can address the question. So is that it clear for you all? So any doubts for anyone here? Any doubts for anyone here? If there is any further doubts, you can just ask. Otherwise, we can just conclude the discussion. Right, friends? Is that it clear? So this is how, so you can simply mention various positive impact and various negative impacts. So then you can mention about, incorporate some of the important case studies. So this is the best way that you can approach to this particular question. Right? So that's all for the day from my side. So we'll meet again with another important question on Monday. So till then, try to write answers for all these questions. So whatever you are going to just see, so write answers for the question. And meanwhile, if you like the video, so you can just, if you like the content, you can like the video and you can share it and you can pass it on to your friends also. So that's all from my side. So let's sign off for the day and let's meet on Monday at sharp 11:30 a.m. with another important question. Thank you all and have a nice day.